Alright guys, so today we are going to be answering another airsoft related question that I seem to be seeing quite a lot. And that is, can you shoot airsoft guns in your backyard? And the simple answer to this is yes and no, which is not a simple answer. But basically, if you want to be safe, don't do it. Okay, and here is why. The reason why I say just flat out don't do it is because the laws are different in every place. So, whether it might be legal for me to shoot it where I live, but where you live, you might live in Europe someplace, or I don't know, Africa, and it may not be legal where you happen to live. So that's why my general advice is just don't do it. However, the reason why I bring this up mainly is because if you're like first getting on into airsoft and you don't know much about it, you might be tempted to go out and shoot this in your backyard. And you've seen me doing it. You've seen loads and loads of people doing it. So why do I say you shouldn't do it? Like I mentioned before, mainly it's a legal concern because this, even though everybody knows, anybody who's played airsoft for any amount of time is probably heard of the Elite Force 1911, and you guys know that this is an airsoft gun. This is not a firearm. But for people that don't know, such as basically any member of the general public, even if they see that, this looks like a firearm, and this looks very, very real. You know, there's blowback. You know, it functions like a firearm. So my other concern is not necessarily is it legal, because even if it's legal, you could still have people, like, let's say my backyard. The way it works is I have my yard, and then I have some woods, and then there's a road that's quite a ways, so I don't really have to worry about people. My neighbor has woods, and it's that I can shoot towards, and it's not a big deal. I don't have to worry about hitting anybody. And I also don't have to worry about seeing people looking into my backyard and seeing me shooting these. Now, your mileage may be different. Your yard, maybe you have a fence, maybe you don't, whatever, maybe you don't have a fence at all. If people are just walking by and they see you with this, even though this is obviously not as loud as a firearm, anyone who's ever shot a firearm knows that, you know, GBBs are not that loud compared to them. But if you don't know that this isn't a firearm, and you've never shot a firearm, you've never witnessed a firearm being shot in person, then you don't know how loud it is. You just know how loud it is in the movies, and let's be honest, this is about as loud as it is in the movies. Nowhere near as loud as it is in real life. So it's very likely that somebody walking by would think that you're shooting an actual gun. And even though there's not casings being ejected or anything like that, those people don't even know that when they see a bullet, they think, oh, well, you know, a bullet is the entire thing. You know, most people, when they see a bullet, they think of this as a bullet, the entire thing, and they don't, you know, a lot of people aren't going to know that this entire thing isn't the bullet. This is a cartridge. The bullet is just the tip, and of course the brass bit is the casing, which gets ejected. And, you know, a lot of people don't even know that. So a lot of the general public doesn't even know that, which means that they're not going to know that if there's not casings coming out of it, it's clearly not a firearm. My point here is that a lot of people cannot tell the difference between this and a firearm. Even these spring pistols that are, well, admittedly fairly terrible, and most airsoft guns have an orange tip. Even with this, most people don't know that an orange tip means it's a toy, which is a very sad thing. But there are tons of people out there that don't know that. And if they're just walking by, they're likely to think you're shooting a firearm. So that is probably the biggest reason, is other people. Even though if you're shooting it safely, you've got safety glasses on, you've got a good backstop, whatever, if somebody sees you with this, chances are they're going to think it's the real thing. Even though it's very clearly, to anybody who's played airsoft or shot a firearm, this is very clearly not a firearm. But my point is that it looks like one, and so people walking by are going to think that it's one. So that is my big concern with advising people to go out and shoot their backyards. Now, if your backyard's like mine, or you have a tall privacy fence and you have a good backstop, and when I say a good backstop, I mean there is no chance that a BB is going to hit somebody or go out of your yard, then it's not a big deal. But whatever the case may be very, very cautious about it. Especially some places, it's illegal to shoot air guns in most neighborhoods. Or, well, not illegal, but it's against the neighborhood bylaws and stuff. But like particularly where I live in the county, it's not. It's perfectly legal to shoot air guns. But some counties, I'm talking more about America in this case. We have, then some counties it will be illegal to shoot air guns of any kind. Even though you see kids shooting Nerf guns all the time, those are air guns technically. But I think the big thing is that if you are mishandling this, or even if you're not, but you're gonna make the entire it's also a thing about the airsoft community and how the airsoft community is projected to the general public, because even if you're somebody like me who's very responsible with their guns, and you keep them well cleaned, and you're not waving them around, and you're not generally mishandling them, it doesn't matter. Other people do, and so other people are going to make the general public is going to think that just because that one person is doing it, everybody that plays airsoft takes their gun outside and waves it all over the front yard, and then you have a bunch of people who are scared that you're going to be going and shooting out their windows or whatever with plastic BBs, or you're going to be shooting them. So yeah, that's my thing with that. So my general advice is don't do it. But if you're in a proper location, and also another thing is make sure your neighbor's all right with it, because there's a good chance that even if you have a big tall privacy fence and stuff, a ricochet or something is going to go over the fence. So make sure your neighbors know what you're doing and they're all right with it, because otherwise that's going to be a problem. And like I mentioned before, I've talked to my neighbors. They don't mind. They have woods anyway, and there's woods for quite a ways. If you notice where I shoot, generally it's out the side of my yard. There's woods for a good long ways back there, so it's not going to be an issue. Even if it does go through the fence or whatever, I'm not going to hit anybody. And that's another thing, you got to be careful about hitting people with these as well. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this gives you a little bit of advice on what you should be doing with these in your yard. Of course, if you are going to do it, make sure you follow proper safety, and that's about it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a very nice day.